Hello, welcome to a quick bug investigation for Internet Explorer 11's Bing suggestions. So Bing suggestions, as you can see here, are the suggestions that come up when you type something into the location bar. So I type Google News. What does it give me? It gives me Google News, UK, India, Ireland, all possible improvements on my search. They're suggestions of what I might actually be trying to type. It could save me time when I'm using the browser. Now they're a pretty cool feature, I use them all the time. But what I found is that certain URLs that seem to be long cause an error message to be displayed in Internet Explorer. Now, what I'm doing here is just searching for a URL as a particular length, or at least is longer than a certain amount. Now, if we look, the Telegraph tend to have long URLs. There we go. So that URL is longer than whatever causes this issue. So if we let that load, and now if we take a copy of that URL and paste it into a new tab, or even paste it back into the same tab in the browser, we'll see this error message be displayed. So here we go, we copy it, click to open a new tab, and paste that URL from the valid working web page of the Telegraph website, paste it into the browser, and look, an error has occurred. An error occurred is displayed right below the Bing suggestions, right below the valid URL. So a little more investigation, and we can see that if we truncate that URL and then paste that itself back into a browser, it works just fine. So the shorter URL that isn't a valid URL does actually work in terms of Bing suggestions, even though it doesn't actually bring back a web page. So it doesn't appear to be connected to whether you have valid content at all, as you would expect. In fact, it works in the opposite way around. Our invalid URL works with Bing suggestions just fine. But here, if we try just making the URL longer, just there you go, reach a certain point and it fails. When we only typed a few extra characters in, it did work. It just gave us no results. It didn't know any valid suggestions, which is fine. But when we reach a particular length, just by adding spurious characters here to the end of the URL, we get the same message: an error occurred. Now, one way to investigate this now is to take that URL and think, what's its properties? Well, we know it's long, okay? So let's try and generate a long URL of our own and see where does it happen. So we use counting strings. So I can generate 100 characters here. Now this was my first example, and what we got here is 100 characters using n as the marker. So these are perfectly valid in URLs. I don't have to worry about any encoding. Now I'm not going to enter http://.com or anything like that. I'm just seeing it's the length to start with. And as we can see here, I pasted that in and I get a valid response from Bing suggestions. But if I add an extra n, an error occurred is displayed. Now if I take one off, it goes fine again. So when I have exactly 100 characters, it's fine. But when I have exactly 101, an error occurred. Right, so that's a great indication that there's some sort of boundary there, invisible boundary to the user, that as soon as they cross that, their URLs, pasted or typed, will fail in Bing suggestions. Now what could we do at this point? Now we can investigate further in a number of ways. We can sniff the network traffic, intercept it in some way, and see what's actually happening in the server and in the response, and see, is it caused by an error in the server, or is it caused by an error in the browser? Which end has the problem? If we can see the messages coming back fine from the server, we can see that maybe it's the browser. Maybe we need to investigate more in the browser and see what errors are actually happening there. Also, we can take a step back and see what else could be causing this error. Is it caused by formatting as well? Is it just the length? Could other causes also be there?